Do you want to know why many attractive men aren't handsome, rich, or muscular? Because they know things you don't. And while you're trying hard to impress her, they attract her without saying a single word. This isn't magic. It's well-applied masculine psychology. The truth, even if it hurts, is this. Women don't fall in love with the man who gives the most or loves the hardest, but with the one who understands how her desire works. And feminine desire isn't logical. It's emotional, instinctive, and often completely irrational. But here's the harshest part. If you don't know these rules, she'll use you, ignore you, or leave you for someone who does. And no, it's not her fault. It's your responsibility as a man to understand the game or keep losing it. This video is not for soft men looking for approval. It's for men who are tired of being invisible, rejected, or the nice guy who never gets anywhere. If you're ready to stop begging for love and start generating real attraction, pay attention. Because women, and this has been confirmed by psychologists, neuroscientists, and even dating coaches, are incredibly responsive to certain male behaviors, attitudes, and energies. And none of it has to do with looks. Want examples? The guy who walks into a room unafraid of being seen. The one who says no without fearing he'll lose her. The one who doesn't explain every move or ask for permission to exist. The one who controls his mind before trying to control the situation. That man, even if you don't understand it yet, activates something in the female brain that forces her to notice him. And this isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding how human nature works, so you can stop acting like a needy boy and start behaving like a man with direction. Today, you're going to learn 4 very specific things that the most attractive men already know, and that you're probably ignoring. Once you understand them, you'll stop chasing and start attracting. Get ready, because this wasn't taught in school, not by your parents, and definitely not by your friends. Experience is about to teach you, and that lesson starts now. 1. Being nice doesn't make you attractive. Being kind doesn't spark desire, it makes you predictable. 2. The man who doesn't need approval, detachment creates mystery, and mystery attracts. 3. Masculine silence is powerful. Talking less and observing more gives you the upper hand. 4. Sex starts with your energy, not your words. Attraction is born from how you see yourself. 1. Being nice doesn't make you attractive. This is an uncomfortable truth. Being a nice guy doesn't make you desirable. It makes you safe. And in the world of attraction, safe rarely excites. Since we were kids, we've been taught that in order to make a woman like us, we need to be polite, thoughtful, attentive, and show her we're willing to do anything for her. In theory, it sounds noble. In practice, it's a recipe for getting ignored. Why? Because female desire isn't triggered by logic, it's triggered by emotion. And the emotion that activates it most isn't comfort, it's uncertainty. When you're the nice guy, you're doing everything to please her. You cater to her whims, you're always available, you reply instantly, you never disagree, you try hard not to upset her. In short, you're showing her that you'll do anything just to win her approval. And deep down, that doesn't feel masculine. It feels weak. She may never say this out loud, but she feels it inside. If this man is doing everything for me without me lifting a finger, how valuable can his attention really be? Desire doesn't come from easy validation. It comes from respect, unpredictability, and value. And when you're excessively nice, what you're really saying without words is, your opinion matters more than my dignity. That kills any spark. Now let's be clear, we're not saying you should be rude, cold, or disrespectful. What we're saying is that unlimited kindness, when used as a strategy to gain approval, loses all its power. You're not being kind out of principle. You're being kind out of fear. Fear of losing her. And she can smell that. She feels it. And she rejects it. A guy spends weeks texting a woman. He always replies within seconds, asks if she's eaten, sends flowers, listens to her vent for hours about her ex. She tells him, "You're such a sweetheart. I wish all men were like you. I don't know what I'd do without you." He thinks he's winning, but on a Friday she texts him, "I met someone, and I don't know, it just feels different." He's confused. How is it possible that after treating her so well, she chooses someone she barely knows? The answer is energy. She wasn't looking for someone to worship her without effort. She was looking for someone with his own life, boundaries, and direction. Someone who didn't need to constantly please her. The other guy, without being cruel, simply wasn't emotionally available to be used as therapy. And ironically, that's what attracted her. Because that man wasn't chasing approval. He was living his life. Being nice isn't the problem. The problem is using niceness as an excuse to avoid rejection. If you want respect, don't just be nice. Be clear, be firm, be yourself. Attraction isn't earned through unnecessary sacrifice. It's earned by showing that you have value, with or without her. 2. The man who doesn't need approval. Nothing is more attractive to a woman than a man who isn't looking for her approval. And nothing turns her off faster than a man who's constantly trying to please her. When a woman feels that you're always trying to impress her, trying too hard to be liked, walking on eggshells just to avoid upsetting her, she doesn't see that as respect. She sees it as weakness. Why? Because you're acting from insecurity, from fear of losing her. And here's the paradox. The more afraid you are of losing her, the faster she loses interest in you. But when you're willing to lose her if necessary, that's when she starts taking you seriously. Women aren't drawn to the man who kneels. They're drawn to the one with direction, the one who doesn't seek to be approved, because he already approves of himself. That man doesn't apologize for having opinions. He doesn't need permission to speak his mind. And if she doesn't agree, he doesn't flinch, doesn't explain, doesn't fold, because he's not desperate to be accepted. He's focused on being authentic. A guy is dating a woman he really likes. One day, she jokingly says, "You're kind of too serious. You should loosen up a little." Most men panic in this situation. They start changing how they speak, try to be more fun, more agreeable, adapt themselves to her comment. Why? Because they're afraid she won't like them anymore. But a man who doesn't seek approval hears that and calmly says, "Maybe." But to be honest, I prefer watching more than talking. He doesn't defend himself. He doesn't explain. He doesn't adjust. And strangely enough, that makes her more curious. Why? Because that kind of answer shows he's not there to please her. He's there because he wants to be, not because he needs to be. She tests him, and he doesn't react like the rest. She realizes, this man doesn't revolve around me. And that's when real attraction begins. You don't need to fit into her mold. She's already seen hundreds of men trying to be the perfect type she says she wants. But when one shows up who doesn't adjust, doesn't need her applause, and isn't available for constant validation, she notices him. She respects him. She desires him. Stop asking for permission to be yourself. The man who doesn't seek approval isn't arrogant. He's free, and masculine freedom is magnetic. 3. Masculine silence is powerful men who talk too much, over-explain, or justify everything they do, lose presence. And without presence, there is no attraction. Most modern men have been trained to fill every space with words. They think that if they don't reply quickly, if they don't explain how they feel, or if they don't say the right thing at the perfect moment, they'll lose her. That constant need to talk, to do something, comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of not being enough. But when a man is silent, not out of shyness but out of confidence, everything changes. That kind of silence is felt. It's respected. It carries weight. Masculine silence is not passivity. It's control. It's presence. It's restrained power. A man who knows when to stay silent communicates far more than the one who feels the need to explain everything. Because well-used silence doesn't create awkwardness. It creates tension. And if you know how to hold that tension, it becomes attraction. Women are used to men who panic when the conversation slows down. Men who feel like they're losing her if they don't text every 10 minutes. Men who can't handle pauses, space, or moments without contact. But when you can remain silent, without anxiety, without pressure, without needing to fill the air with empty words, you're sending a very clear message. I'm not afraid of the void. I don't need your reaction to feel valid. And in today's world, that's extremely rare. That's why it's so powerful. The most attractive men aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who aren't afraid to let silence do the work. Sometimes, when she throws a comment at you just to provoke a reaction, the smartest move isn't to respond. It's to stay silent and look at her. When she expects an instant reply and you just take a breath and pause, she starts to wonder, why isn't he reacting like the others? That question sparks curiosity, and curiosity creates attraction. But this only works if your silence comes from strength, not from fear. There's a big difference between being quiet because you don't know what to say, and being quiet because you know you don't need to say anything. The man who masters silence doesn't chase attention. He doesn't try to prove anything. He's not competing with other men for the cleverest line. He just is. And his very presence says, I don't need to convince you of anything. That kind of certainty is magnetic. And today, almost no one has it. Have you noticed that the most respected men in any room are usually the quietest ones? That's not a coincidence. Their silence demands respect. And to a woman, respect always comes before desire. So the next time you feel the urge to fill the silence just to avoid seeming weird, remember this. Masculine silence is a weapon, and you decide whether to use it or betray yourself by talking too much. If you've made it this far, then you've already understood something fundamental. It's not what you say, it's what you transmit. And what you transmit comes from who you are, not from what you pretend to be. We live in a world where men are constantly told to be more sensitive, more nice, softer, more understanding, and then we wonder why so many women keep saying, there are no real men left. That's the contradiction no one wants to say out loud. The more you try to please, the less they respect you. And the more you depend on them, the more they ignore you. And yes, I know. It hurts. It hurts to realize that being nice wasn't enough. That doing everything for her didn't work. That sending flowers, listening to her problems, telling her she's special, didn't spark anything. But here comes the line that many will hate, and others will finally thank me for. A woman can fall in love with a man who treats her badly, but she will never feel desire for a man who treats himself badly. Yes, you read that right. Because it's not about mistreating women. It's about understanding that when you don't value yourself, no matter how well you treat her, she can't feel desire for someone who puts himself beneath her. This is a truth many men refuse to accept. They'd rather keep calling their weakness a virtue. They'd rather believe that someday she'll finally open her eyes and realize how much they're worth. But the truth is, she already looked, and she decided it wasn't enough. Not because you're a bad man, but because you're not a man who inspires anything. Attraction isn't begged for. It's sparked. Not with sweet words, but with clear, masculine, grounded energy. That's why this channel is not for men who want to keep sleeping through life. It's for those ready to transform, rebuild themselves, and reclaim their personal power. And if you're one of them, I want to read your story in the comments. Tell me, have you gone through this? Have you been ignored? Used? Have you gotten tired of giving everything and getting nothing real in return? I'm reading it all, and I'll be replying to the men who are truly ready to grow. Because here, we're not building followers. We're building a community, a brotherhood of conscious, awake, unstoppable men. You're not alone in this. But you also can't keep being the same man if you want different results. Activate that energy. Reclaim yourself and become the man who doesn't need approval to be desired.